What's going on, everybody? Hope this video finds you well. Super cool topic that we're going to cover today. This is a topic that really hits home for me. It's a topic that I've been getting questions about, and it's also an area of the game that I've been coaching quite a bit recently with players that are struggling. So a lot of the content that I'm going to do for you is kind of what I'm seeing out of lessons and how we can actually explain the cause and effect and how we're going to rectify it. So today's topic, this is going to be basically how the trail shoulder dynamics have a massive influence on controlling where our low point actually gets to, okay? Before that, if you haven't checked out that last video that I did, super cool video on the mental game, please check that out. Also got a free crash course, Understanding Impact. Would love to have you take a look at that. I also want to give a shout out and thank you to some of the people that helped me out. Red Vanley Clothing, Drew Belt has some awesome stuff, iRange, so make sure you check them out if you're in the market for anything like that. So let's go right into it. So when we're talking about trail shoulder and how this can have a massive influence on basically our low point control, the first thing I think we need to understand is how do we actually measure low point? Like, what are we looking for? Where do we start? Where is it trying to get to? And where do we need it to return to be more consistent coming down into contact? So when we look at low point, if I take this stick right here, so this right here in the middle, this is going to represent the center of me. So this would be my center of mass. So kind of like the placard or the zipper on your shirt or your belt buckle, okay? Low point is going to be measured from the lead shoulder. So this is where our arm, our hand, this is our very first connection to the golf club, and this would be the point that the golf club actually works around, and then we have our center of mass that the body would work around. So low point, I would like to say that is driven from where our lead shoulder starts right here. So if we put this right here in the ground, if we look at players who struggle with low point control, and we say we have a ball position right about here, well, if this shoulder starts here at setup, we need that to get back to low point or even minutely in front of it. Where we start to see players get in trouble, and these are a lot of the things that I've been seeing in regards recently teaching, is we see players either get the shoulder too far behind this direction. They can fall into what we would call a secondary tilt, which would be hanging backwards, which keeps the shoulder backwards. Because now this is going to make it harder for us to drive the golf club through the golf ball into the turf with an iron so that we can make more predictable contact and also have better control of what our start line is going to be doing. So low point is really, really big right here. So one of my biggest issues, if I use me as an example when I was younger, is number one, I would get my right shoulder internally rotated, okay? So this right here, this would be internal rotation of the shoulder. This would be external rotation. So you could see the elbow would move closer to my midline externally. Internally, it's going to be moving further away from midline if it moves into internal rotation. So that was one thing. So I would let my right shoulder get up like this. So when I would get my arm up here like this direction, what I would then do to try and create speed is I would pull this down. So if you watch where my right shoulder goes, when I'm up here and I'm pulling this down, you can see how this right shoulder is running on the seam line of my shirt, or even getting stuck behind it like this. So for this drill, the way I'm going to explain this is going to be for the person really that struggles with getting the golf club stuck behind them. Because as soon as we get into this type of a pattern where we have this trail shoulder staying backwards, well, now we have a choice to make. Either A, we're going to pitch the club this way for contact, or B, we're going to keep driving forward like this, and this golf club is going to continue to fall under the plane. And now the sweet spot of the club is aligned way out there, and we're basically left with timing a lot of, we could call it forearm roll, we could call it elongating the wrist, Probably more than anything, it's going to be timing a lot of twist in regards to what the face is doing, adding loft, etc., things like that. So first things first, in understanding this, one thing that I would say that has really helped me in understanding this process right here, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to explain it to you, and we're going to give you a drill for this as well. So if you hold your trail arm up here at a 90-degree angle right out in front of you, first thing to understand, this moving this direction, you can see the angle of my arm isn't changing. So this would be a shoulder movement that is working into retraction right there. So if I go here and I bring it back to neutral, and I now move this forward without the angle of my arm changing, this is what we would refer to as protraction. So if we're in here and we're standing straight up and down and we move this shoulder forward and in against our chest and we bring this down, what you're going to notice here is how far in front my trail shoulder is from the inside of my shoe. When we see players who tilt out of it and they get down to impact, you can see how this trail shoulder is back here behind the shoe. So this is where we struggle with path control, we struggle with contact, and we struggle with face control, okay? So the first thing is understanding how we actually move the shoulder this way. So some of the dynamics when we look at this, if you held your arm straight out, one, you're not going to be moving your body here. The first thing I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you reach the shoulder forward, okay? So this would be the shoulder going forward. Now from here, the arm can start to move in and against the chest. So this would be reaching, and this would be moving this in and against the chest right here. So this is one, it's creating a better connection. And number two, when we look at this from up in here, I'll do it from this way. When we look at this from up in here, you can see as I move the arm this direction, this angle here in between my humerus and my forearm, this angle's not changing and it is being driven from the shoulder. This is not just being driven by letting the forearm go this way. This is where we see players steepen it as they go this direction. So they're letting the forearm move down at a higher rate than the shoulder and the humerus are moving forward. So this would be keeping the forearm the same. This would be letting the forearm start to work down, which would start to steepen the club, which then makes us fall into this secondary tilt to basically allow us to try and plane the golf club out. So what I would say is one of the hardest things when we're trying to explain things in golf is everything right here is working on it's biased to a circular motion, okay? So it works on a rotational standpoint, the vast majority of all of our movements. The golf ball is really the only thing that hopefully works relatively in a straight line right there. But the way that we learn as people is we learn from point A to point B. We see most of the things that we do, we see them in lines. So if there's ways that we can create feels, drills, things like that that are going to relate to a circle, and we can then take them and relate them to a line, I think it becomes easier for us to understand. So what I'm going to do from a drill standpoint so that you can see this and start to comprehend this better is I'm going to take this. This is one of these things you'd stick on the back of a golf club. What we're going to do is we're going to take this, a shorter version of an alignment stick, and I'm going to put this underneath my right armpit, my trail armpit here. Okay? And I'm going to start the arm off in external rotation. So if I'm here towards you, let's call this white line here, let's call this our target line. So if I went here and I held my arm up and I start to drive the shoulder forward, you can see that this line is now starting to match this line here on my feet. Okay, so what we're not seeing is we're not seeing this line here stay perpendicular. So if I did that from here, we're not seeing this line stay perpendicular to what the target line would be. When you watch this again from here, if I start to push the shoulder here, you can see how this line here is now starting to drive more the direction of the target when my shoulder and my arm structure are in this position. If I go internal, I'm going to be dropping that. So this would be a way of working on the external rotation and also the directional movements of the shoulders. So if we went in here and we took our setup and we put this underneath our arm, first thing I'm going to have you do is go setup. We're going to go pressure forward. And what I'm going to have you do, trying to keep the body fairly quiet here, we're going to start to move the right shoulder forward, and we're going to get this more pointing the direction of our target, trying to get it closer to where this alignment stick would be in relation to our feet. And you can see this is coming from my shoulder going forward, and then it's moving inward against my chest. And so one more helpful hint and feel here is the inside part of the bicep and the tricep right here. This is what's being driven into the outer part of the chest, where it would actually start to rest more on top of it. So when we go into setup, we have our pressure forward over our hip. We're going to mimic impact. So we're going to turn this now the direction of where the target would be. And I'm going to rehearse that feel a few times, trying to keep my body relatively grounded when I do this. And I'm here, and I'm driving that more the direction of the target. And then from there, we can actually start to hit some half shots. So this, for a lot of you, if you're stuck way to the inside, this is actually going to feel like this golf club is starting to pitch back out in front of you. It could even feel like it's coming minutely from an out to in path. And we'll explain one other piece here in a sec. So if we go here, feel impact, rehearse it back halfway, and bring that back to the ball. There would be my feel. So I'm going to go here, and that would be more of my look right there. And that was a really straight golf ball that came out very, very penetrating. So when we add, once you start to get comfortable with this, one of the key factors here is if you just lift the arm straight up and the shoulder goes there, that golf club is going to pitch out. So what you'll want to keep awareness of is that you're still creating adequate handle depth to where now this shoulder can move forward, and then it can start driving the direction of the target. So we'll do this again right here. So we're going to go set up. We're going to go set up, hip forward, rehearse this back. Right shoulder starts moving this line more the direction of the target, and then we'll hit. And that would be more of what our look would be. And what you should start to see out of this, if I did this like I was hitting a golf ball towards you, you're going to be feeling more side bend. You're going to start seeing the golf ball come out on a different angle. We're not going to be seeing the golf ball come out from this angle where our eyes are parallel to the ground. We're going to see it from here to where the trail eye is lower than the lead eye. And even just making rehearsals right here are a great way of understanding how this shoulder is now starting to drive the trail side of our pressure forward, which is starting to move our handle more into this position. And this is what's putting us more in control of our contact point and our low point. So we'll do one more right here. So go set up, pressure forward, work this back, trail shoulder is now driving low point forward, and then we'll hit. And there would be more of our look right there. So there was not one of those golf balls that I mishit. They came out very penetrating, and I really felt like I was in control of the handle of the golf club right there. So this is a great way to turn a circular movement related to a line in the direction we're trying to move something, which is going to ultimately help us controlling the moment of truth, which would be contact, and putting us to where we can predict what our low point is going to be doing more. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope this is helping you educate yourself on different areas of the golf swing, whether they would be for you, whether they're not for you. If If you have any questions for me, please leave those in the comments down below. I appreciate your support. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.